The moment a baby dragon chose its human guardian, the wind howled across the broken stone cliffs as ash drifted like gray snow beneath a bleeding red sunset, and every soldier in the valley kept their distance from the shattered obsidian egg resting alone at the center of the battlefield. No one wanted to stand too close because legends had warned that when a dragon hatches, it does not simply cry for warmth, it chooses, and that choice binds life to flame. The Knights of the Iron Crest had come to claim glory and bring the creature under royal command, yet now they stood uneasy with shields raised and hands trembling inside metal gauntlets that suddenly felt too thin. Among them stood a single human without polished armor, without a noble crest, without any intention of claiming a weapon-raised victory. His name was Orin, and he had come not as a conqueror, but as a scout who happened to be in the wrong valley at the wrong hour when the sky split with fire the night before. He watched the cracked egg carefully while others whispered about selling the hatchling to the crown or binding it in enchanted chains before it could breathe real flame. The shell shifted. A thin line of golden light bled from the fracture. A low, fragile sound escaped from within, not a roar, not a scream, but something small and uncertain like a question whispered to the world. Several knights stepped backward. One dropped his spear. Another muttered a prayer to distant gods who had never answered him before. The egg split open. Light spilled across the blackened stones, and from within emerged a creature no larger than a hunting dog covered in dark scales that shimmered faintly blue beneath the dying sun. Its wings were too small for its body, and its tail curled instinctively around itself as if trying to feel safe in a place that smelled of steel and fear. The baby dragon lifted its head. Its eyes opened. They were not red. They were not gold. They were a deep, luminous silver that reflected every heartbeat around it. The captain of the knights raised his sword and barked an order to secure the creature immediately before it imprinted on one of them. Because once a dragon chooses, a bond cannot be undone. The baby dragon looked at the nearest armored figure and flinched. The metal reflected harshly in its eyes. The scent of oil and old blood lingered heavy. It took a small, unsteady step backward. Then another. Orin felt something twist inside his chest. Not ambition, not greed, just a quiet ache. He slowly removed the short blade from his belt and placed it on the ground in front of him. The captain shouted at him, demanding discipline, demanding loyalty, demanding he stand ready. Orin did not answer. He removed the leather gloves from his hands and dropped them beside the blade. He stepped forward slowly, palms open, fingers empty, voice calm. The dragon tilted its head. Its silver eyes locked onto his. There was no command in his gaze. No hunger. No claim. Only patience. The wind shifted. Ash swirled between them. The knights tense, expecting flame, expecting a violent first breath of destruction. Instead, the dragon took a single awkward step toward the unarmed human. Then another, each movement hesitant but curious. Its claws scraped softly against stone. Orin knelt, not in submission, not in fear, but to make himself smaller, less towering, less threatening. The captain shouted again, warning him that if the creature bonded to a common scout, it would be wasted potential for the kingdom. Orin ignored him, because the dragon was close enough now that he could see tiny fractures in its scales where it had pushed against the shell too early, close enough to see that it was shivering. The dragon stopped only a breath away. It studied his face. Its nostrils flared as it tested his scent. Smoke and sweat and wind and something steady beneath it all. Something warm. The dragon extended its neck slowly and pressed its forehead against Orin's open palm. The valley went silent. No roar. No explosion. Only contact. A pulse of heat traveled from scale to skin. Not burning. Not searing. But anchoring. Orin gasped softly as images flashed across his mind, vast skies, ancient mountains, rivers of lava, stars seen from above the clouds. And the dragon saw through him in return. It saw loneliness. It saw stubborn hope. It saw a man who had never been chosen first in his life. Until now. The captain lowered his sword, slowly, realization dawning too late. The bond had formed. A faint mark like liquid silver spread across Orin's wrist, glowing softly before settling into the shape of a curling flame. The baby dragon made a small rumbling sound deep in its throat, not fierce but content. Then it climbed clumsily into his lap, folding its wings awkwardly as if it had always belonged there. One of the knights whispered that this was impossible. That dragons chose strength. That dragons chose power. But the oldest soldier among them shook his head quietly and said dragons choose guardians, not masters. Orin looked down at the hatchling now resting against his chest and felt the weight of destiny settle without crushing him. He did not feel powerful. He felt responsible. The captain approached carefully, his tone shifting from command to negotiation. He spoke of duty to the crown of training of royal stables built for dragon riders of glory beyond imagination. The dragon lifted its head and stared at the captain. A thin curl of smoke escaped its nostrils. Not threatening, just clear. Orin stood slowly, still holding the creature. He met the captain's eyes and spoke calmly. This dragon chose. Not you, not the king, me, and I choose it back. The wind carried his words across the valley like a promise etched into stone. For a long moment no one moved. Then the captain sheathed his sword with visible reluctance. He knew the lore as well as the legend. To separate a dragon from its chosen guardian was to invite catastrophe. The bond was sacred, and dangerous to break. Orin turned away from the soldiers and began walking toward the narrow mountain path that led out of the valley. No parade, no applause, just a quiet departure. The baby dragon lifted its small head and looked back once at the armored figures shrinking behind them. Then it rested its chin against Orin's shoulder and closed its silver eyes. Above them the red sky deepened into night. Stars began to appear one by one like witnesses to a moment that would echo through history. And far beyond the mountains and halls of stone and fire, ancient elder dragons stirred, sensing that a new bond had been forged not through dominance, not through conquest, but through choice. The world had expected flame and fear. Instead, it had witnessed something rarer, trust. And as Orin disappeared into the mountain pass, carrying the small warm weight of the future against his chest, neither he nor the kingdom behind him yet understood that this quiet moment would one day reshape empires. Because the strongest fire is not the one that burns the brightest. It is the one that chooses where it belongs.